Trade winds are swirling around Utah's number 4 pick at the entry draft. Wait till you hear who we've got coming back as a return on today's Locked On Mammoth.
You are Locked On Mammoth, your daily podcast on the Utah Mammoth, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, everyone, and welcome into once again to Locked On Mammoth. I'm veteran NHL voice Tom Callahan, joined by longtime team analyst Robin Leano, and together we are the dynamic duo that brings you Locked On Mammoth every single day. Thanks for making us your first listen when it comes to the Utah Mammoth. The trade winds are swirling this time of year, as they always are. There's only 2 teams left now. You've got Edmonton still playing, you've got Florida still playing, and for everybody else, it's speculation time. So what about the Mammoths' number 4 overall pick? Well, if they do unload it, we've got some great ideas as to who might be coming back or what might be coming back for the Mammoth. This episode brought to you by Monarch Money. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use our code LOCKEDONNHL at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. Robin, I asked the question right after Bill Armstrong got his shiny new number 4 pick. I was the first one to ask it, so I feel pretty good about wading into this topic because I think it's my favorite ball to kick around right now. Right after he got the number 4, maybe a half hour after he got the news, I said, hey, I know it's shiny and new and it looks great, but would you put it in play? Do you expect your phone to be ringing? The obvious answer is yes. That is the answer I got. The question now, Robin, what do you find an acceptable return for that number 4 pick? Because let's face it, the internet trolls are out with their fake trades right now for this number 4 pick.
Oh my God, yeah. I will say this, Tom. I feel like it's interesting because there was a conversation that was going on, and this was kind of within. It was like a direct message group between the top 5 picks in the draft among Locked On hosts, and they pretty much were like, hey, if this team, and I'm not going to reveal which team was looking to trade up, but this team wanted to trade up and into the top 5, what's it going to take? And the gist of it is, no matter what it was, whether it was number 1, 2, 3, 4, or 5, pretty much said it's going to take a top line guy, a surefire star, nothing less than that.
And I tend to agree with that. Now, we're going to talk about a couple of scenarios here today. There's talk going around right now that the Mammoth are shopping the pick. Shopping is a relative term because, of course, if the phone rings, Bill Armstrong's going to answer it and say, what will you give me? And consider and weigh all the offers. And then at the end of the day, may or may not make that number 4 pick. But Robin, I'm going to start off with an interesting proposition because here's a thought. And I actually we didn't get around to talking about this when James Hagens was the focus of our show the other day about him possibly falling to 4th. But Hagens being a New York guy, being a former Islanders fan, and someone who I think would fit on the island and looks like he'll be there at number 4. What about trading up to go get number 1 this year, Robin? What about making that move? Now that's going to cost you something.
Yeah, that's an interesting thing. I mean, yeah. And I think, Utah does have the leverage over other teams, and they have a number 4 pick. So that's still a lot of value in that. It's just going from 4 to 1. You have to sweeten the deal a little bit. There would be an aspect for that. And I think a lot of people have talked about it, right? A lot of people, like, there are some comments on our YouTube channel who have asked about that. And I'm like, I would like to see the Utah Mammoth trade up to number 1.
Now, supposing you're the Islanders, what would it take to rip that first overall pick out of your clammy little hands? Because to me, again, we've talked to our draft experts here within the Locked On universe, and we've talked to the folks who, power our picks and do the mock drafts. Robin, the feeling is there's a top 2, maybe a sneaky third. And after that, there's like that mid-pack, I guess. Mid-pack, can we call it that? The next maybe 3 players or so off the board, which Utah's picking in that range. And then it goes from there. But it could be, and I think it's going to be a deeper draft in hindsight, but we won't know for 5 years, 10 years. Then everybody says, but how much are you willing to give up of the current roster to sweeten that pot, or maybe a prospect to sweeten that pot to get number 1?
It's interesting. So I feel like there's a lot that goes into it. I think, and the biggest thing is what exactly the Islanders are looking for. What kind of player do they want? What is their biggest need? And the good thing is that's why we have pro scouts. That's why the general manager and assistant general manager and all those kind of get in the room together, kind of discuss those options.
So taking a look just out of the pure cap ramifications of who might be available, the biggest name that stands out to me right away is Matthew Barzal. Now, here's the thing about Barzal. Only 28, can play center, can play the wing, right shot, which for a center is huge, valuable. 9.15 million, Robin, through 2031. So you've got term. You've got what I'll call a manageable hit for Barzal. And you've got versatility. After that, you've got Bo Horvat, who's at 30, a center who signed for 8.5 also through that 2031. Now a little older, certainly a different skill set than Barzal. But beyond that, I mean, Anders Lee's got one more year in at 34. I don't think that's floating my boat at all. But among the forwards, I don't know that there's anybody else that I'm really excited about. From the Islanders, if you're going to get a player for that number 4 involved in this. But the question then becomes for the Islanders, trying to figure out, and this is the hard part, right? So you have a rookie GM coming up into this draft and into this pick. So this is where, it's not Lou Lamoriello running the ship anymore. Can you, I don't want to say take advantage, that sounds greedy, but can you get a favorable trade worked out? Could you even expand that trade where maybe the Islanders might want to move on from a guy or two? Maybe they want to make room for a guy like Higgins on the roster.
I mean, there certainly is some wiggle room on something like this. There certainly is ways you can sweeten the pie. You can kind of expand on a trade. But I feel like there is, I mean, I will say this though, with the question marks surrounding this draft, the question to me that just keeps circling in my head, and it's been circling in my head since you started the conversation, is it worth it? We're not seeing anything like this, because is it really worth going for a trade like that when this isn't a draft where we're getting a generational talent, right? This isn't your hey, you're going to draft a Macklin Celebrini or a Connor Bedard or another McDavid or Matthews. I mean, we talked about it. That's not this draft. I mean, it's got some good talent. Yeah, absolutely. Schaefer, Misa, even Higgins, all those great options. But when it comes to the actual trade of moving up or down, and even adding the extra pot to try to make the push, that's the question that keeps going in my head, Tom, is it worth it?
I understand that, yes, and you have to believe that it is. Well, I've got a way I want to pose this to you because I have a price tag in mind, and okay. I have a price tag for the Mammoth, and I want to get your reaction on this because I think I might raise a few eyebrows. And today's show is brought to you in part by Monarch Money. You ever log into your bank account and wonder, where did all my money go? Well, between dining out, online shopping, streaming, entertainment, it is pretty easy to lose track. And that's where Monarch Money comes in. It's your personal CFO giving you full visibility and control over your finances. Monarch Money isn't just a budgeting app. It's a complete Financial Command Center. You can track all your accounts, your investments, and your spending in one place so you stop just managing your money and you start building wealth, which is really the name of the game in today's day and age. When I started using Monarch, it really broke down for me how much I was spending on different categories. And you don't think about it because you think, oh, this streaming service is 10 here, 12 here, 15 here. All of a sudden you turn around, that adds up real quick. And so now you kind of have the realization, and it helps you begin to budget better and save more. And then you turn that money into wealth that goes to work for you. You give those dollars something else to do. And it's great because instead of juggling multiple apps, you can use Monarch to check your finances, track your spending, and even plan your long-term goals and keep an eye on those investments that you want to get going sooner than later. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use our code LOCKEDONNHL at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. That's monarchmoney.com, code LOCKEDONNHL for half off your first year. Tom Callahan, Robin Leano here with the Locked On Mammoth podcast, talking about the number 4 overall pick as the trade winds swirl around said pick. Robin, I think I need to identify what I think a price could be in order to make this a more realistic discussion. And I want you to tape your eyebrows down, okay? Everybody listening, everybody watching, get out the Scotch tape and just go ahead and place one strip over each eyebrow. I'll wait. Okay, time's up. I think this is what it's going to cost to get the number 4 plus X to turn out to be the number 1. I think the price might be Sean Durzi.
Interesting. Okay.
Here's why. And here's why I think it could happen. Because, number 1, 2 big Russian players just signed. One of them happens to be a defenseman. And when asked about Simashev and the potential to play NHL minutes, not only did GM Bill Armstrong not discount the possibility, he kind of made it sound like he thought the big guy might be ready as soon as next year, right out of training camp. Pile on top of that. Now, Simashev left-hand shot. Pile on top of that, Maverick Lamoureux, I think could be a competent, if not better, NHL defenseman this year. So I think you have probably 2 players who are ready to step in on defense. So one on the left side, one on the right side, that's important. If it is Durzi's a right-hand shot, and I know right-hand shot defensemen are more valuable. Robin, I told you that looking at the Islanders, really the only 2 attractive players to me were up front. I'm not wowed very much by their decor. And I mean, obviously, you look at their results from the regular season, but I feel like this team is going to have to make some seismic changes, and I'm talking about the Islanders. Mm-hmm. And so if you are going to come off that number 1 to turn around and say, we just got a top pairing defenseman and the number 4 pick, I think is something you could turn around to then talk about the number 1. And there might be some minor assets involved beyond that, some prospects, some late round picks. I'm not going to focus on that, but I'm thinking and wondering, could that be the price you pay? That's a steep price.
It is,
in my opinion.
Price. Yeah,
but it could be the price that they have to pay.
It could be.
Is it?
And again, that brings me back to the question that I asked before the break. On a draft like this one, is Matthew Schaefer that worth it? Because it very much seems like Matthew Schaefer is probably the likely number 1, and Michael Meese is going to be number 2. Is Matthew Schaefer worth trading up to number 1 and giving up a player like Sean Durzi?
Do you feel that this is it a generational talent, or at least is it a team talent? Is it once a decade talent? Getting that number 1 pick, because let's face it, here's the other side of that coin, Robin, is that I don't think Utah's going to be picking this low anytime soon. You know, they won this year.
This was a, like, getting number 4 on its own was a fluke. I mean, it ended up a fluke, and on the good side, obviously, it really ended up working out well in Utah's favor, because now they have a massive bargaining piece that they could do, or really just a chip that they could use to their advantage in any way, whether it's via the trade market or anything else.
So what do you think, though? Is Durzi too much? Am I asking too much here, Robin? You're the GM again.
God. I will say this. Is on a draft like this, I feel like giving up a player like Durzi is just above my my price limit. I think it's just a little too much out of it. I don't think it's worth it.
Now, here's a negative against it, and I'll present both sides of my own case here, is that with Durzi at 26 years old, star on the rise, about to come into the prime of his career, you might be setting your own timeline back a little bit when you want to be a defensively competitive team. But I think you will have room to move some defensemen. And in fact, I would not be surprised if Bill Armstrong does move some defensemen coming up here. So does there become another package? And I'm always talking about the Leafs, right? The focus is on Mitch Marner. Where's he going to go in free agency? We don't know. But could Toronto, because we know Leafs fans are crazy, right? They're nuts. With some of the trade proposals that are flying around out there, I can't believe that any serious site, let's say, would try to pick up those horse balls and run with them. But you're going to see those flying around. However, the Leafs have two things that would work in any trade partner's favor. Number one, a history of failure, which is really working against them in the playoff failure, and the pressure of a media market that is demanding answers right now.
Yeah.
That could force Toronto's hand into doing something reactionary, which could turn out to be a mistake. Maybe you could take advantage of that.
It very well could be. And I feel like there will be a lot more eyes on that. That's for sure. We're not even going to get close to the and again, I will say this is, I'm not going to generalize because I'm sure there are some competent Leafs fans out there, but all the ones we see are just straight up delusion.
It's kind of crazy. They wake up there already in blue and white face paint. It's unbelievable. Some of the stuff that's out there. And you know what? If you're scrolling through social media after you follow us at Locked On Mammoth, man, just spend a couple of minutes looking at trade proposals, and it'll give you a giggle. It'll make you feel better about yourself. Because for the most part, I think Mammoth fans are even keel.
Yeah. I will say this. Anytime I see, like, if I see any Leafs fan put Clayton Keller in any sentence, I'm instantly just like, nope, I don't care.
Yeah, they always seem to want, your three best players for,
but they'll want their value, right?
Yeah.
They'll think Clayton Keller is worth a bag of pucks, and I'm like, You gotta be kidding me.
But they're Toronto pucks, so they're worth a lot. They're not. They don't go in the net just as much as the regular pucks. So I don't know. In
fact, maybe less.
Yeah, well, especially in the playoffs, game sevens, especially. So Robin, there's a couple other potential movement possibilities for number 4, but we're going to get into what I think it would actually take from other teams coming in, and I'm going to talk positionally here. What I think it takes for other teams if they're really going to get Utah to come off that number 4 pick. And we'll get your thoughts in here as well. We'll be right back. Tom Callahan, Robin Leano here with you. Thanks so much for joining us. Hey, if you like what you hear, please subscribe. And we're going to have a bunch of different content coming your way in this month of June. June's actually our most exciting month. We're going to get inside and do heavy breakdowns on every possible pick that could fall to the Mammoth at number 4, or heck, if they move up, we'll talk about that as well. Plus, we're also going to continue as, free agency is looming. It's going to be huge. We're going to start looking at individual players, maybe some big names, some not so big names, but could be important pieces for the Mammoth. We're going to get into those as well. And of course, the NHL awards are starting to be given out here, and we're looking forward to that. Stanley Cup starts with the Stanley Cup. We're into the final. Robin, talking about this number 4 pick, though, this is not the last time we're going to talk about whether or not it's tradable. But right now, if I say to you, Robin, I need XYZ in order to move this number 4 pick, I'm saying to you, I need absolutely one of 3 things. I need a top line forward, and I'm talking a point a game guy.
Yeah.
Or I need a top 5 in the NHL second line center plus. Okay. The other thing that I would absolutely be willing to move on at this point, and this is, I like to stir the pot, so I'm going to go ahead and do it.
Okay.
A top 10 starting goaltender, which would then involve Veg being moved.
Okay.
I know that one's not going to be popular with Mammoth fans.
Oh, no. People love Veg too much.
They do.
But at the same time, we got to remember, like, this is also this is a decision, a discussion, and I've said it already, and I'll say it again: is Bill Armstrong, the scouts, and a bunch of other people deciding is moving X player and bringing in this? We're trading away. Is it we're trading up? Is it worth this? Like, they're not just gonna say, hey, I'm like, we're gonna get this for that. Like, and we think it's a good deal. Like, what goes on in these office decisions? Oh my God, Tom, it is insane.
Robin, here's why I bring up goaltending. Are you ready?
Okay.
So you and I talked about Pete DeBoer absolutely destroying Dallas. Okay. You've seen Pete DeBoer destroy a team. I've covered a team Pete DeBoer destroyed in Vegas.
Pete DeBoer, he's made it to the Stanley Cup final. I want to say 13, or at least the conference finals. The conference finals, 13 times in the last 16 years, but just cannot get it done.
It's all about the conference final losing, and flat out blame Jake Oettinger for it when it was clearly not Ottinger's fault. And that was so incredibly unfair. Well, here's the thing. Oettinger, as a human being, is hurt by this. I don't blame him. Oettinger said the right things, did the right thing, says, I don't want to move on from Dallas.
Mm-hmm.
DeBoer is DeBoer. He'll do it again. So here's the thing, though. Dallas doesn't want to trade Jake Oettinger, but Dallas also apparently doesn't want to fire Pete DeBoer. So to me, something's got to give. And it's either going to get to a point where DeBoer doesn't want to play there anymore. Remember, Pete DeBoer is the guy who absolutely turfed Marc-Andre Fleury in Vegas.
You mean where Marc-Andre Fleury's own agent posts a picture on Twitter of a sword going through Marc-Andre Fleury, with the sword being named Peter DeBoer?
Yes. And did you see that was resurrected for Jake Oettinger? There was a meme of him posted making a save on his knees with the sword labeled DeBoer going right through his back. It was resurrected. And
it surprised me.
So here's the thing, Robin. What happens if Dallas runs into a situation where Oettinger says, all right, let's try to mend the fence. Let's try to fix this. Let's try to figure this out. Jim Nill is the guy who's got to do it. Because remember, Dallas had its owner call out a couple of players a couple of years ago in Ben and Sagan. And boy, that was an uncomfortable room for a while.
Oh,
but
yeah.
Somehow Jim Nill fixed it because both those guys are still with Dallas. So, I don't know. I don't know if Oettinger is a different case. He certainly is, putting it politely, cerebral. Mm-hmm. I wonder if he's going to want out of Dallas.
There will be some. I'm pretty sure there will be a that does factor into the conversation.
And could pressure push. Ready? Here's the other one. Didn't know I had another one. Connor Hellebuck out of Winnipeg. Could the pressure push Hellebuck out of Winnipeg? I think that's a possibility, which would be a mistake for the Jets. Let me please be on the record as saying I think it's a mistake if it happens.
I mean, one of the greatest goaltenders right now. So,
but
yeah.
admittedly struggles in the playoffs. I get it. But how much better would you be with Connor Hellebuck?
It would make worlds of a difference. And again, I think, and it's to be honest, when we're talking about the decision on when it comes to trade, when it comes to those trading and everything like that, I don't think it's fair to Veg to make the comparison, right? Because I mean, Veg is still young. There's all the different things, but if let's say Utah gets the opportunity to even let's say put in the conversation of getting a top goalie like that, I mean, you can't pass up the conversation just because. And again, like I said, it's not fair. It's not fair to Veg but again, unfortunately, sometimes that's part of the hockey business.
And the thing is, honestly, what happened to Oettinger is not fair, and what's happening to Hellebuck isn't fair. I mean, people are skewering those guys. Oh, they have a bad game here and there. Yeah, they do. Clearly they do. But also, when your team doesn't show up and doesn't score for you, what are you going to do? So right. I don't know. I just love to stir the pot, Robin. So,
I'm sure we're having the moment you probably mentioned that, and I'm pretty sure that we have almost every single one of our everydayers are now just hammering in now on our YouTube comments and be like, "Are you nuts?"
I'm not. I think if you get better in goal, you get better in goal. And I love Veg. I love Veg. Yeah, I think Veg is the guy who deserves a shot at being number one. But if you have an undisputed number one for several years who's been one of the most dominant goaltenders in the league. Now, look, am I making this trade for Jordan Binnington? No, because Binnington's way too inconsistent for me. But
I mean, sometimes you see a situation where a top goalie moves one place, a quote top goalie. I'm not sure, depending on what your opinion of this person was at the time. They look bad for a couple years, and then they all of a sudden become back to the former glory and actually even carry that team to a Stanley Cup. And yes, if some of you might be wondering who I'm talking about, I am talking about Bob.
Yeah, remember he was basically like $10 million worth of roadkill. People were so upset about that contract.
Mm-hmm.
And now,
now it looks good.
Yeah. I mean, people were so upset. I remember first 4, maybe even 5 years of that deal. And quite frankly, he was awful for the first couple of years of that contract for what he was getting paid, which is still a lot for a goalie to not perform to that level. But now he's brought them to the Cup Finals 3 years in a row, won a cup.
Bringing in Bob at that level to replace Luongo, right?
Right.
That was the plan.
Yep.
God, I thought of Luongo. Oh my God.
I know. It's kind of crazy, but there's a lot of thoughts, a lot of teams that would want to get their mitts on that number 4 pick. Robin, do you have any dispute over my thoughts about the top 4 forward positions, the 1C, 2C, or the top wings?
I think that's to me, I feel like that's kind of it will be a must. It has to be a top player. I'm not sure if this is just me if this is the way, this is getting a little bit overboard or however it be but I'm not entertaining the conversation unless that's part of it.
And that's, I mean, again, here's the thing though, and please remember this. It doesn't matter where you pick a player, even at number 1, sometimes they just don't pan out.
No, you're right. Absolutely. And sometimes a number 4 pick might turn out better than a number 2 or number 3 or number 1.
Yeah, absolutely. Sometimes that number 4 pick could be the best player in the draft. So this is why it's alchemy. It is not science. It's an art. trying to figure out how to put this all together. So just like we try to figure out how to put the show together every single time. Robin, anything you want to add here, or thoughts of your own you want to toss out here on this number 4 pick?
No, all I'll say is just trust Bill Armstrong to make the right decision. I mean, to me, like I said, I'm gonna hold true that they shouldn't trade it at all. I feel like they could get some good value out of it. They can get a good player out of there. Can find a someone who ends up becoming a superstar in a couple of years. Because if anything, I learned among a top 5 player in the last few years, hey, Utah, or previously known as Arizona, picked up a guy named Logan Cooley, which we all knew was going to happen, but it was worth it in the end.
Yep, absolutely.
More than worth it. More than worth it.
Absolutely. That's it. Future star Logan Cooley, who's just starting to blossom. And can't wait to see what next season brings for him. So, all right. Any questions, thoughts, anything you want to throw at us, please do so on social media. Robin, where can they find the show?
They can find us at Locked On Mammoth just about everywhere. So that is on Twitter, on Threads, Instagram, as well as on Blue Sky. You can find me personally at Robin with a Y _LEANO on Twitter.
And I am at Tom Talks on Blue Sky, which is where I spend most of my time posting. I'm still on Twitter at Callahan on air as well. And look forward to hearing from you. And we look forward to seeing you once again in our next episode. Stay tuned. There's so much in the month of June. It might be our busiest month, quite frankly. So this is the time to be a subscriber and be with us every single day. And we thank you for being a part of Locked On Mammoth.